Okay, welcome everyone to One More Cup of Coffee, Coffee and Culture's Genshin Impact lore podcast. I'm your host for today, Jside from the Genshin Guys podcast, but you can also call me Josh. In this episode of One More Cup of Coffee, we'll be joined by fellow Genshin content creator Roosevelt. So, Roosevelt, can I call you Roosevelt? Roos, what do you like?
Hello. You can call me whatever you would like. Ruse is fine. Katie is fine. A lot of people call me Katie because that's my name.
Good
But
reason, as
yeah,
I mean.
yeah. Ruse is fine. I think it's cute.
Okay, well, Roos is easy to remember, I think. So, Roos, before we get started, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. I survived April Fools. I only fell for like 3 pranks.
Oh,
So,
nice.
um,
Only three.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, before we get started talking about our main content, our Genshin stuff today, I like to start with a little bit of getting to know each other a little bit first. So,
Ooh.
yeah, so first I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, like who are you, where are you based, like what do you like doing on your off time, like besides the Genshin stuff, like who are you?
Ooh, gosh, who am I? Oh, geez. I didn't realize I would have to do a lot of self-reflection today. Well, I'm Katie. I live in a swamp with a pack of feral dogs.
Nice.
Um, some of them are actually not feral. They're my 2 little babies. Their names are Lucky and Mr. Pickles, and they
Miss
are precious,
Pickle.
and I love them.
Wow.
Um, in terms of my free time, gosh, I don't have a lot of free time. I'm just trying to find a new job at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Doing a lot of like life stuff, taxes.
Oh, geez, taxes.
So, yeah, Genshin is the only game I'm playing right now. So,
Okay, cool. Well, speaking of Genshin, thanks for sharing. What about Genshin, right, draws you in the most? Like, what do you like the most about Genshin?
ooh, okay. So, uh, so many things. So I remember I like randomly started playing it. Probably December of the first year it was out. So like
Mm-hmm.
the Albedo banner was running. Um, And at first I was just, drawn in by like, oh, I get to run around and like, press buttons and hit things and, look at all these cool anime characters. But I think what really drew me in was Kaya, because I remember when we first started talking to him like during his story quest. And he's like obviously lying to you and he's like, telling you that like uh hairstyles and eye patches are hereditary and that
Oh
that
my
had me
God,
hooked.
yes.
I was like, this dude is funny and hot. And then of course from there, I think that's what really sparked my interest in Conria lore. So I think that's the thing that has like a just a complete hold on me. Just anything related to Conria.
and
Um,
by extension, Kaya, right?
yeah, Kaya, Conria, Dainsliff, Piero, oh, King Earman, oh, just just anything. So anything, everything Conria. Um,
Right, and we know that you make a lot of lore videos on YouTube. So
yes.
like, what made you want to start making lore videos?
So, hmm. I had like gotten a new laptop and I was like, man, I finally have some like the power to make videos and I just had always had an interest in it, but I wasn't sure what. So when I first started making videos, I guess it was a mix of like some lore stuff, some like, I don't want to say shit posting, but just like goofy things.
Hmm.
Um Originally I thought I was just going to be like a clipper for Owlet streams.
Hmm.
And I do have some videos where I did that. But I don't know what happened. I think with the release of Sumeru, there was just so much lore. And I was like, I gotta guys, I gotta talk about it. I need to subject people to all these crack theories I have. Like they must suffer.
Oh my God, and suffer they
Oh,
have in the best way possible.
oh,
You
very
mentioned
good.
the Owlet stream. So tell us about how you co-host a stream with Owlet.
Oh yeah, so oh gosh, I've known Owl for probably 2 years, over 2 years now.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I just started as just a random uh person in chat, and then she forced me to be a mod at some point. Still don't know how to be a mod. Like, I don't know what any of the buttons do, but and then at some point after the Chasm's release, she had fallen behind on some story quests. So I was going to hop on and help do some of the voice acting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I haven't left her since. She can't get rid of me. So
Ah, yes.
yeah,
Very
and
nice.
that's also when Gilbert Gottfried Paimon voice was born. So
Oh,
I think that was a really special moment between us.
okay, wait. So, I heard about this, in Owlet's Discord server. So, what exactly is Gilbert Gottfried Paimon
Oh,
voice?
it's just doing the Paimon voice, but it sounded like I chain smoke 3 packs of cigarettes like every day, and I have for like the past 500 years.
Wait, so can you do it right now?
Doing it on command. What would I even say? Uh, hold on, I'm trying to think of something that Paimon would say.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I'm panicking.
No, it's okay.
um, okay, hold on. I'll just I'll read some of chat.
Okay.
You can't get rid of me. So she Stockholmed you into it. Interesting.
Oh my God. I see
It's
why
like
this
really
became a thing.
gross.
I see
It's
why
like
this became a thing.
it's like really gross.
It is really gross, and I'm really glad that Paimon's voice actor was not directed to be that way. But because of that, you now have Gilbert Gottfried Paimon voice, and we are here for it. So
Yeah,
that's
it just
great.
it I think it adds charm to the streams, when we're story questing.
Yeah.
Um yeah, we like to have fun with it. So like all the Aranara have like these really sweet like southern accents
Mm-hmm.
for some reason. So they're like super darling. They're my children. I love the Aranara. Um for some reason Zamaran also had a super southern accent.
No,
And
why
that
not?
turned out really funny. Um the treasure hoarder from the Chasm quest, what was his name? Kotofo.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to do a New York accent for that. It did not work out well. It was like real bad.
I see. So using your voice talents on stream.
Talents.
Are you air quoting right now?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, just making
Can,
sure.
can, can you guys hear the air quotes?
Talents. Southern Impact. Oh my God, that's so funny. Genshin Impact with your host Shinyan. Yeah, so okay, well, okay, so you hang around on Owlet stream and co-host, you do voices for story quests, world quests that have no voices,
Hmm.
and you guys just like generally just, chill, have fun, talk about lore, react to lore at the same time while playing through the game, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so anyone interested, of course, we will do our plugs at the end of the live stream, but if you haven't already, definitely go check them out later. Now, but your YouTube is just your YouTube channel, right? Like RoozeveltFox on
Yes.
YouTube, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, yeah, so we'll get into the lore a little bit now. So, do you have a favorite part of the story or lore from Genshin, and why is that your favorite?
um, like more specific than Conria.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, I guess you did say that
Yeah.
like Hanria is part of it, but what about, yeah, let's get really specific. Like one specific event or moment that you like to think about a lot, or like it comes back a lot and you always want to hear about it.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
So Hanria is pretty broad, right?
Okay, I have a good answer for this. So I remember like first stepping into Sumeru and like seeing my giant robot husband, the rune golem, and I was like, "Oh my god, he's beautiful. He's perfect. He's amazing." Right? And and on Jazari's quest, we go inside, right? And I don't think I can ever replicate the adrenaline and serotonin I got from seeing the shinies inside the rune golem and
Mm,
reading about Schwanenritter. That was just such a high for me. It was like, oh my god, it was like the coolest thing. And then with the rune guard codes that you figure out with
Mhm.
the batteries that you put in them. Like, oh my god, it was just there was something about that that was so special. And then, of course, going to the desert and getting even more Schwanenritter lore, I was like, oh my god, I need more. Like, we barely have anything on them, right? But
Right.
like, I am just so invested already.
I
Yeah.
mean, we know that the Schwanenritter were what, like Conria Knights, and they had to do with those three big golems, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Tell us
they
a little bit
were
about that.
yeah, so they were the pilots of the Rune Golem. So there was Knight Marshal and Fortis.
Mhm.
Inghilder, the uh Sword of the Lost Homeland or something. That's the one that we actually fight in the first Rune Golem.
Mhm.
And then Hadira, who apparently betrayed the knights and led injury to Enfortis's left eye, and was executed. And
Mm.
then Hildrick, who um, died yeah,
The Beard
due to
Father.
multiple organ failure. So those are the ones that we know about. And we
Mhm.
don't really know much else aside from the fact that they were battling the abyssal beast during the Cataclysm. So like the second rune golem is like in the Valley of Dawri, and they
Mhm.
had like intentionally like funneled the monsters into the valley so they could pew pew at them, right? So
Mhm.
and I think gosh, I think one of the reasons why it's still so fascinating is because like Conria has been like there's so much conflicting information about the Cataclysm, and this is like the first time like we learned that like oh my god, Conria was fighting against the monsters. So it was just so interesting, and I just need more.
Yeah. Oh man. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but the live stream reminds me of that conversation. But okay. But anyway, so yeah, so we have the Swan and Raider that we learned about there. So that's like one of those things that really, really got you, right? You were like, oh wow, this is like so interesting, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's so funny actually. Earlier today, I guess I'll ask you this question. So on my Discord, I have do this question of the day thing, and today's question
Ooh.
was, what is one moment that you wish you could relive in Genshin? Like like experience again for the first time. Like,
Ooh,
is
okay.
it that, or is there something else that you want to just like experience again for
I
the first time?
I have another good answer for that. So actually already one good answer for that. Like just the experience of like learning this for the first time in this new area and just all that.
Hmm.
I think another thing though was the Winter Nights Lazo trailer drop.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god, just the collective like we all lost our minds. Like I don't know if I slept that week. Like I was just like because I mean even before we like really knew anything about I mean I guess we still don't know much about Piero, but like I remember like having Piero brain rot like months beforehand and like
Hmm.
seeing him for the first time like I like I'm like still like my brain is melting just thinking about
I
it. Like
can hear it in
I'm
your voice.
I'm short circuiting, guys. Yeah, yeah, there was just something just so magical, and it just came out of nowhere. There was like no hint. It was just like just random like here you go. Have fun.
Yeah. Mhm. No, it's true. Like that was our introduction to the possible story quest. Like the Archon quests. Like we didn't know what was gonna happen in Sumeru, right? We knew we were
Mhm.
going to Sumeru, but when the end of that trailer showed burning the world tree, like that it was like this whole like that was kind of what we got as a hint for what was going to be happening
Yeah.
later, right? Like oh doing an experiment in blasphemy. And like, but like before, up until that point, yeah, like there was Senora died, and it's like them all getting around a table and talking about Senora. Scaramouche not there at the time.
Mhm.
Um, they, I mean, we still haven't gotten in-game character models for 90% of the characters in that room, but it was such a huge reveal out of nowhere. Like, wow, that's such a good moment. I definitely that would probably be up there for me too, because man, and not only was like the music awesome. But like just seeing all those characters and it's just so many questions. Like
I
when are we
just
gonna see these characters? Like the fact that we still haven't seen them at all, most of them. It's still like, oh my god, this game has so much more left to go.
Oh wait, I do want to say I also lost my mind during the interlude with Scaramouche when we heard Piero speak.
Hmm.
Oh, and like it was only like what, like 2 or 3 lines, but also lost my mind then. Just much more minor scale, but like it was that was really cool. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
that's
guys can
awesome.
tell, I really love Piero.
Piero, Kaya,
Mhm.
Kainria, the Golem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's great. Yeah, I love like sometimes like Genshin has been stretched over such a long time, and it's gonna keep continuing to be a long lasting game where story comes out every 6 weeks basically,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's easy to forget how impactful some of these things were. So I love thinking back and thinking like, holy crap, remember when that dropped? Like what I mean? Like remember when we got this freaking introduction to the Harbingers that we had no idea anything about any of them, and now all of a sudden we have so many faces to put to the names, and we can just speculate like crazy now. Oh my god, remember? But what's his name? Looks like Baiju.
Pantaloon.
Yes, Pantalone. Oh my god, he looks just like Baiju. They must be twins. It must be actually secretly Baiju. Oh, we'll find out in 3.6, when we learn about Baiju. Yeah, so no, it was just like there was so much internet. I mean, Genshin community exploded, right? So
Oh yeah, yeah.
that was fun. I definitely agree on that. So yeah, so
Oh wait,
great.
another quick moment. Okay,
Mm,
so another one that like oh, another moment that like I will always cherish is like uh going into the Eternal Oasis for the first time. Like,
mm,
oh, that was like I know we saw it in the trailer, but there was something that hit different about like actually going into this like completely still area.
agreed. Yeah. No, it was like also it was very yeah, like you said, like we saw it in the trailer, but when you go through that entire super long quest
Mhm.
to get there. Like, you keep talking about it. Like we never got to see well, what's I'm sorry, I'm blanking. The name of the place, the Golden Slumber. Um like,
Oh,
where
Gurbat itself or
well like so like how Jet's dad disappeared
yeah.
into that place. What was that? That's Golden Slumber, right? The
Yeah, the
name of
void. The
the
oh my
void.
god,
Yeah,
oh my god, that thing was so scary. Okay,
it was very
that's a
scary.
moment I would not want to relive because
Yeah.
running away from that wall that's chasing you,
Yeah.
this void, that was scary as hell, guys. Like Genshin is a horror game, I swear.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the most like Genshin is a horror game moments. But like the just that whole thing was about that place, like getting to that place, and then when we find out the nature of that place, and then what happens to Jet's dad because of it, like we
Mhm.
didn't really get anywhere. Like we got to the tomb and we found out what it was actually happening. But like this getting to the Eternal Oasis really feels like the head of that whole journey in a sense. Like we're talking about the Eternal Oasis. The Eternal Oasis, like that's where the dad wanted to go. That's where the
Mhm.
mom was. They're said to they were gonna meet there or whatever. All this stuff, and just like getting there for the first time, like you said, it's quiet. Time is frozen. Like I get chills thinking about the first time I walked in there too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course like I know like going into the patch, I was also desperate to find the celestial nail because like where's it guys?
Right.
Where's the nail?
Right. Right. Yeah.
but then also going into the Oasis and then at some point like being lost in that moment, but then turning around and seeing a ley line branch and you're like, "Oh, that's suspicious."
Oh, that ties into your video that I saw you do a
Ah,
little bit
yes.
ago. Yes, so we will
Yes.
talk about that in a moment.
Mhm.
So, Kaya is your favorite playable character then? Or do you have
I
a favorite playable character that is not Kaya, and why?
hmm. Yeah, it's Kaya.
It's Kaya.
It's definitely Kaya.
Yes, Kaya.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and like not only just like his character and his story and his design and personality and how perfect he is in every single way. I just as his play style I just find is like really fun and smooth. So
Mhm.
I actually run Melt Kaya, so he has a well I call him a delusion Kaya. So he has a pyro goblet on, but
Mhm.
he does big numbers
With Bennett C6?
with yeah, C6 Benny.
Nice.
It's just a lot of fun. So
That is really cool, actually. Melting Kaya. Oh, he borrowed Delik's father's delusion. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so or his father, I guess, too, technically adopted, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
man, I cannot wait to learn more about Kaya. That Carrie Bear quest, like just the teasing of like we were gonna learn more about Kaya and see more of Kaya and Dainsleif talking, but like they were in there for like 5 minutes, and then we just like go into this whole thing. Man,
Interesting because
yeah.
like before, I think a lot of people were, just waiting for the day when they finally meet. And I know it like in my head, like I had imagined like all the different ways it could go. Like ranging from like super dramatic, like, oh my god, biggest lore bomb reveals, to like very casual, like, oh hey Kai, oh hey Dane, what's up?
Uh-huh.
Oh, nothing much. Just cursed eternally. How are you doing? So at least it wasn't that casual, I guess.
Yeah,
Although
but
that would have been funny.
it was pretty casual though, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, it was super cash. But
Like Dane's here, now Kaya's here. Or wait, Kaya's here, now Dane's here. It was like that. That's right.
but Kaya, even though his appearance was brief, he did give us a lot of information. So
Oh yeah.
truly a generous king. So
King, yes. Keyword is king. Okay, so I want to go into our topics today then. We talked a lot, we kind of bounced around. We're going to be bouncing around a lot today. So, and I know that you like theory and,
Mhm,
copium and all this stuff. So, um I want to now I know you have YouTube videos about a lot of this stuff.
mhm.
So I don't want to make you like talk about the whole thing over and over,
I will.
but if you will,
Don't try me.
I will take advantage of your ability to do that.
Mhm.
And I would love for you to share your thoughts on Earman and or the sinner. The sinner.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna open
so
up this can of worms right now, and I'm okay with it. So you can talk as long as you need to. Okay.
okay, wait, hold on. Let me go all the way back to the genesis of this obsession, right? It's like first going into the chasm, the Black Serpent Knights, they drop these, these statuettes, and you look into the statuettes and you get lost in the sauce, right? So I think that was the start of it for me. Definitely got lost in the sauce.
I love
Um,
sauce.
and then of course during Hidden Strife event, where somehow you manage to find these letters hidden beneath or behind a block on top of the Knights of Livonius HQ for a limited time only, just
Hmm.
to get like this major lore drop about like, oh, the one-eyed King Earman, he's he's not doing great right now. So the
Uh-huh.
Alberics have to take over. So after that, I was like, oh my god, we finally the one-eyed king. So the wheels were turning, and then I remember it was around this time that someone like it was before the Sumero story arcs where we start to learn that like, oh, fables and fiction may actually hold a lot of truth in the world, like
Hmm.
protecting it from Earman's soul deletion. But
Right.
like, so I hadn't really been paying too much attention to the books, like kind of, but like I remember like people on Twitter pointing out that like, oh, Earman's been mentioned before in Legend of the Shattered Halberd, and
Mhm.
so I made a video on that, um,
Mhm.
because the line about Earman is so interesting. So it goes, the first divine halberd, Earman, once pierced the Axis Mundi and connected the realms. And after that, his replicates populated the heavens or something. And I just thought that was so fascinating that, like, okay, so Earman is the king of a godless nation, but
Mhm.
at the same time, in this book, he seems to have a divine origin. So I was like, okay, that's sussy. What's going on with that? And then,
Mm.
so the author of Legend of the Shattered Halberd, Mr. Nine, super suspicious because like the entire book has like a bunch of like Norse mythology references. So it's
Right.
like, okay, that's interesting. But the other book he wrote, is flowers for Princess Fischl. And
Right.
I think Fischl is pretty important considering they have a playable character basically LARPing this fictional character that she read about, right?
Hmm.
And actually, Fischl is also Divine Halberd, so super interesting. So basically,
Official is like the last halberd or something like
yes,
that.
yeah. So Irmin was the first, Fischl was the last. So
Right. Official in
um,
the book, not Amy specifically, right?
yes, yes, the princessin, the
Right.
actual Mr. Nine's character of Fischl.
Right.
Yeah. So and one I think one of the most interesting connections that I've made is like, so a lot of people have like made comparisons, myself included, of Irmin to Odin, like, you know, the all father of the Norse pantheon. But
Right.
another interesting thing is that Fischl also has a lot of similarities with Odin as well. So like
Eye
having one
patch, ravens.
the ravens, and also the ability to see fate. So that's actually like a very notable characteristic about uh, Odin of Norse mythology. So it's satyr, I think. It's like
Yeah. Satyr
is that
magic is the fate magic. Yeah.
yeah. So Fischl has that, and Irmin also seems to have ties to or like influences from Odin, and at the same time in Mr. Nine's work, both Irmin and Fischl are divine halberds. So
Mm.
I think there's something here. There's something here. The gears are turning, right? So of
Hmm.
course, you know, with the Carry Bear quest, thinking about who was the voice. So I honestly waffle a little bit about who the voice actually is. However, I think my personal favorite is, of course, that it's King Irmin because of this Odin Fischl connection, specifically about the you know the fate magic or being able to see fate. You know, because time and space are no obstacle for him, right?
Right.
Sinner,
So can I ask you a question there?
sure.
So, like the sinner, the crystal thing, right? Now that
Hmm.
crystal form, I know that people say that there's like this whole what because Destret got like sealed in a crystal and it's like kind of similar that like maybe it's not the same, but I'm just curious to what you think about that physical form that we saw in Care Bear's story, like that big crystal, and how the voice like was the voice coming through that crystal or from like within that crystal? Like how do you perceive like that whole situation happening where the voice gets to your head, or maybe you see the crystal and then the voice is going directly to your head and is not necessarily related to the crystal? Like what do you how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I remember like even so before the patch,
Mhm.
like I had seen a post on Reddit that like pointed out that like, oh, the crystal kind of looks like Deshret's crystal, and I thought that was like, ooh. So originally I thought that um maybe that was supposed to be the crystal heart of Deshret that the Abyss Order was trying to capture and like use for, you know, the Loom of Fate. You know,
Right.
in a similar way to like using Osile tentacles or like trying to you know, corrupt Dvalin or like you know, just messing with dead gods in general.
Mhm.
Um that doesn't seem to be the case cuz I after the quest, it sounds like the crystal is talking to us.
Right? That's what it
So I
feels like.
yeah, so I think that's why a lot of people are thinking that like, oh, so maybe that is Deshret. I mean, along with
Like inside
other
the crystal.
yeah, yeah. So but I guess another like so in thinking about this, I was trying to like consider as many options as possible. So like one thing I was thinking, um, that's like not Irmin or Teshret, would be the
Mhm.
second who came, so like the second throne.
Right. Right.
Um, because more and more, um, over like the past few patches, I've like really been leaning towards like, oh, the second who came like brought the abyss, or like it could have been like um, you know, the juice of the abyss, you know, itself.
Mhm.
Um, which in that case, I don't know, man. I kind of think of it as like a haunted meteorite. I don't know, man.
A haunted meteorite. Hmm. Okay. Okay, tell me more about this haunted meteorite. So because it came from outside the world,
Yeah,
Mhm.
because so in
A
the
descender,
amethyst,
basically.
yeah. So the amethyst crown, um, basically says that like, oh, the second who came from beyond the firmament. So it's an alien, it's a descender. Um, and I guess like I this is something I honestly would need to go back and revisit because it feels like the chasm it's gone through a few things quite a few times. So it has been hit by like multiple like meteors or whatever, right?
Right, right.
I don't remember the details, but like um yeah, so I guess maybe it was just a haunted ghost rock.
Yeah, because like I don't know why I suddenly had this thought of like yeah, I mean, okay, so there's like the overanalyzing and the overthinking part of all this, but um, like this whole like omnipotence thing that
Mhm.
this voice is able to achieve, like quote unquote he, can he saw you or whatever,
Ooh,
um,
yeah.
right? And then Dane's like he saw you, I'm out, bye, and leaves and quest ends. Okay, great. So basically when you're there and the crystal is there, yes, like the crystal is physically there, and then you communicate with the quote unquote sinner who's like seemingly talking to you.
Mhm.
um Part of what made me think was like, is that is that coming from inside the crystal, or is that crystal a catalyst for like a kind of like similar to like how in this is like probably reaching, but like in the Windbloom event when you talk to Alice through stuff,
Right,
like
right.
through a thing, like something similar to that, but in like a more abyssal fashion. Like maybe this giant crystal is a catalyst that allows you to connect from one point in time space to another, and
Oh
maybe
yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
I think that's also totally plausible. I guess I just I don't know, haven't thought too much about that specifically,
right.
but I mean, yeah, Alice talks to us through
Yeah, I
like
mean,
various
we're just
objects.
thinking
So
like because they make it seem like make it really obvious that like this sinner is chained up in this crystal, right? But I'm wondering if that's the case, like if that's actually what's happening. So, but I mean, it could be. I'm just this is just
Mhm.
more what if stuff. But anyway, I just had that thought while we were talking, so don't mind me. Just like and wanted
Oh,
to
no, no, it's
add some
fine. It's
fuel to
fine.
the fire. You know what I mean? So yeah, so okay, so the sinner, Earman, right? You said the king
Mhm.
with the eye
Mhm.
patch, right?
Mhm.
We got another king with an eye patch in the game, Kaya, you know what I'm saying?
My king.
You're a king with the eye patch. And then we got Fischl. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities between them. There is lore similarities between them through the books in the game that flesh out the backstory of not only the character that Fischl bases herself after, but also characters that may be directly related to the world of Teyvat that we haven't actually seen yet.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
like the point that you brought up that before Sumer's quest, before we found out that the way that Irminsul works, how you can rewrite history, but nothing actually changes, but that history could be kept if it was, in these written in these books as a story and not as like true history. Um, that is such an interesting. I mean, I know a lot of people have probably thought about that, but for those of you that have not thought about that, like it is a really interesting way to think that these books that we've been getting since the beginning of the game, these secrets that the Abyss made at the
Mhm.
beginning, who takes that book from Lisa's story quest. What was it? The
The Pale Princess and the Six
yes,
Pygmies.
yes,
Yeah.
the Pale Princess book, and it holds the secrets.
The
That's super
secret.
sus, super sus. Now that we know what that might mean in terms of like the secrets, which is like the truth of the world, and so like that's
Mhm.
a really cool line of thinking to go down, I think. Um, it just really shows you what Genshin's capable of. Like we're still like we don't have any idea what's going on in Fontaine. We don't know what's going on in Natlin. We don't know what's going on in like right
Yeah,
now at
yeah.
this moment. And so the fact that any of those things, like to me, it feels like it's impossible to think that even though this Sumeru thing is huge, like this changing the history of the world almost at will, the thing that Nahida can do is huge. It's also like
Mm.
what are these? What are the other things that are happening in the other nations, and how are they going to impact what is going to happen in the story? And I think that that's really interesting to think about because Sumeru happens after we visited three nations, and it made us rethink everything we ever thought about all three nations and about Teyvat in general. So It's really
So
interesting to think
I
about that.
remember after after Ruka Devada's deletion, that's when people started to say like, oh, like we noticed like, oh, like things in the archive, their descriptions change and like
Mhm.
dialogues change by NPCs and voice lines. Sorry if you hear someone drag racing outside.
I was like, "Are you drag racing right now? Is that your drag
No,
racing
they're
in the
they're just
podcast?"
they're just doing donuts. It's fine. In the swamp. They're the
Oh, yeah,
gators.
Donuts in the Swamp. Yep, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah, but and then of course like during Scaramouche's interlude, like Nahida very explicitly says like, "Oh, I created a little fairy tale so I could remember this stuff." And
Mhm.
I remember like in that moment, like suddenly having a realization of like, oh, like Lisa's story quest, like suddenly like makes a lot of sense. It suddenly becomes like way more important.
Right.
um, but then I guess like after that, I was also like, oh, so like what other things in like early story quests were mentioned? And of course, with Fischl, that one is obvious because she LARPs as Mr. Nine's
The book
Fischl.
character, right.
But also Legend of the Shattered Halberd. So that's the other book that Mr. Nine wrote. That's also
Mhm.
like a big plot point of Xingqiu's story quest. Like
Right.
the only reason he helps you out is because he's a nerd and
Mhm.
he wants the final volume. Like he wants a copy of the final volume.
Right.
So there's all the so there's actually a lot of dialogue talking about the book and like how rare it is and how good it is too. So
Yeah, no.
and I think that's one reason why I was like, okay, these books are extra sus now. And of course, actually reading into it, it's like, oh, that's the one that mentions Airman. Oh, okay, yeah, cool.
I just remembered, wasn't that little fairy tale that Nahida made about Scaramouche being a cat or a fox? Was it a fox?
Oh, he's a little kitty cat.
Yeah, so it's just like the April Fool's joke.
Scaramouche.
Amazing. Okay, so, yeah, so much like Sumeru really, like, leveled up all of Genshin lore, I think. It was
It really
really
did. It really
impactful.
did.
Yeah. So, man, I can't wait to see what's next. Okay, so how about this? So let's shift the conversation a little bit over to the Cataclysm and what we know about the Cataclysm and uh, forbidden knowledge and kind of just
Mm.
like what are your thoughts about that? Like obviously we have the we have the live stream that kind of revealed some kind of plot points that might lead us to somewhere in terms of thinking, but like what do you let's just like rope the live stream into this conversation.
Oh yeah, I think that works out great
Yeah.
um because actually I feel like this this current patch between Kari Bear and Windbloom, we actually there is a clear link between them, and because we learn about the Conrians being like the greatest sinners, right? And like the two different curses, and
Right.
then of course we switch to Windbloom, where it's like, oh, let's have fun and pick flowers and stuff.
Is it still like that we don't know if it's like two different curses or if it's like the same curse that just affects people differently?
This
Each
okay,
one?
this drives me insane. I stand by the okay. So in my video, I was like very confused. I was like, okay, previously I thought there were two different curses because hilitralism
Mhm.
seems more it's similar to uh Elazar and like
Mhm.
and also Gurabad. The people of Gurabad were also turned into hiliturls, and we
Right.
also have hiliturls like you know elsewhere that are
Right. The
not like
hilichurls exist outside of the curse of Conria, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and another thing that like I had totally forgotten to like revisit is like going back to the chasm quest with Dane, and the way Dane talks about the quest is that he talks about the curse as if it's one curse
Mhm.
because it'll be like he'll be talking about the knights and himself and the hilichurls as if they all have the same curse, and
Mhm.
then of course during the climax of that the Abyss Order is trying to turn on this device and it affects hilichurls and Dane and the knights, so it's
Right.
like why are they affected differently? So I so personally I think Clotar might not quite understand the curse fully. He's just sort of coming to a conclusion based on, sort of like the obvious, like
Right.
superficial
Well,
of
at least
what's
where
going on.
we saw him, right? Because it seems that he was able to undo the curse to some degree.
True.
If
Yeah.
that really is him that we found that is dead, which they kind of allude to it very heavily.
I'm it definitely has to be him because he talks about like during the quest he wants like to lay down in that field and just like
Right.
fall asleep and never wake up.
Yeah. So
And
it's
so
basically
like yeah, so Traveler is like, "Oh, there's
I
probably a skeleton here." And it's like, "Oh,
like,
there's two
but
skeletons." Yeah.
but I'm curious because like like that's like the obvious, that maybe we're thinking too hard if we try to think any more about this situation kind of like theory. Like, okay, Dane Sleff goes, that's probably him. And then after everything you told me, and then he tells us that himself. But what if he's not dead? And what if he put a different skeleton in there or something? Like I don't know, who knows? Like maybe there's some kind of like it just feels I think we don't have enough answers to the point where we can just say like, "Oh yeah, he figured out how to unsolve the curse or how to undo the curse, and then he was dead." Like but that's the thing that maybe that's what drives Dane to like figure out more about the curse because Dane told us previously that the curse is unremovable. Like period. Like he didn't know, he'd never heard of a way up until that point for him to remove like the curse to be removed. Like he'd never heard that,
So
right?
yeah, so what's interesting, so first of all, the skeleton, like the male skeleton, it does say that he's wearing a scarf, which
Right,
is
right,
Kari Bear's mother's scarf, which
right.
actually, if you look back to the scene, like the very last scene with Clotar, he is wearing a scarf on his wrist.
Hmm.
So he's scarf. But also, I feel like Dane must have realized something. So between meeting back up with Dane and Paimon and digging up the skeletons, like you tell Dane what happened and
Right.
everything, and he didn't know any of this. And for him to be so adamant during the Chasm quest that like, oh no, there's no way to cure the curse, no way, there's no way. But then to hear the story, to dig up a skeleton and be like, oh, maybe he did. Oh, he cured the curse.
Wait, can you remind me again? Like, what happened at the end of Care Bear? Like when you go back to when you wake up, basically.
Yeah,
Was that
when you wake up.
when his son, like the Hilichurl, was like exploding? Is that what happens? And then you wake up?
No, so basically
Or,
Bear
oh yeah, you
like
wake up after that. Right, right, right,
explodes and then you pass, well, you don't know what happens because you pass out.
right.
Then you wake up and like Clotar is like just up to something. He's
Yeah.
laughing,
Like
he's like,
Loom of
"Ah, yeah, the
Fate
loom of
and
fate."
stuff. Yeah,
And that's when you
he
look
reveals,
into
right?
the mirror and like you have that revelation. Oh my god, you have oh, you were Arabis. You were supposed to save Conria.
Right.
Oh my god, that was ah! Yeah, so you look at the mirror and then that's when you wake up to Paimon and Dane.
Yeah. Like, but the thing is, like, then in that case, because like, what I'm kind of wondering is like, okay, so Dane didn't know any of that happened, but that was when Dane was traveling with your sibling. So what you're saying is your sibling experienced all that and then didn't tell Dane about it immediately after, even though they were
So
supposedly traveling together.
yeah, so it seems like the implication is like they were traveling together, but Dane was off doing something else, and then
Hmm.
this happened, and then the sibling did not tell Dane
Right.
explicitly, and
Or
because Dane
branched
makes
out
a
soon
note of
after.
that. Like
Yeah.
Dane's like shocked. He's like, "Oh my god, I didn't know any of this. Why?
Hmm.
Why didn't they tell me? Like, why did they switch to the Abyss Order?" So he's clearly realizing something, and I think he's also not telling us. But
Hmm.
I guess also because if he knows that like, oh my god, we're being watched.
Hmm. Yeah.
um
I mean, like as soon as he's like, "Oh, you're being watched. All right, I'm out of here. Bye."
yeah, peace.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
that's about all right. So we have that. So what about like now the Cataclysm and like where we see in the live stream this place in Sumeru Desert, which like what is your what is your speculation of what we saw in the Sumeru Desert? I saw that you were talking about DNA things and stuff like that for the dragon.
There's
So
so much
tell
good
me
things
some of
about
your theories about the live stream
it.
for
Okay,
being.
so it seems okay. It looked like there was a portal, and the portal seems to be in that one area with these giant like silver gray purple shards.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I need to get in that hole. I want to get in that hole. I'm going straight there. That's my first job
That's
on
my home.
patch release. That's where I belong. Exactly.
Let me
Um,
in.
so it's I don't even know what to think. Like honestly, like I feel like we're going to get more Cataclysm lore. I feel like that this doesn't look like something the Abyss Order is doing like created right now. This kind of I mean, I would like to guess that it's like this is like an old thing and we're like discovering it and ooh, we learned about the Cataclysm and maybe more about like Irvin and Schwan
Mm-hmm.
and Ritter. So
Uh, actually, there's one thing I'm kind of confused about. Like this, okay. I mean, okay. This is because it's live stream and we don't know anything. It's vague on purpose. But do you think that both of those parts, the Cataclysm and the like Nahida story quest, like with the dragon, like is that all part of Nahida's story quest, or do you think because usually they tell us if there's an interlude quest coming, right? And this time they only said that there's Nahida's story quest.
oh,
So
and
and it's voiced.
but
So
Baiju has a story quest too, though, right?
right, okay.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
Baiju's story quest wouldn't be in Liyue. You think it
Hmm.
would be in Sumeru instead?
Oh no no no.
Because we didn't, as far as I know, I didn't like it. So I guess it would make sense that like maybe Baiju's story quest could be tied to this whoever was talking at the beginning. Was it Apepes that was talking at the beginning? Like who was
Oh
it? Who do you think is talking when they say like
okay.
we are
So
the race that's been around forever?
okay. I have tried thinking about this.
Hmm.
Um, So okay, so there are two mysterious voices, and if you look in the trailer description, they only
Hmm.
list one. So Apep is speaking. So one of them must be Apep. Um,
Right.
so I know in the past they've done a really good job of sort of like clipping things in a way that it's very deceptive.
Hmm.
Um, but in the Kari Bear trailer, it was actually pretty one to one. Like when the sinner speaks, you see the worshiping hilly churls and all that. And then when Clotar speaks, they show Clotar. So I think Apep's voice is the one that's speaking when you see Apep. Um,
Hmm.
the first voice, I don't know. Like, okay, so someone of an ancient race. Like, I've heard speculation that that's actually the new Lecter boss
Right. The
speaking.
one we see throwing
Which,
galaxies at you.
yeah, yeah. Oh, the galaxies. Which would make sense because they do say um we were victims of the apocalypse, but then we became the apocalypse. So if you think about that in terms of like, oh, like some abyssal corruption or like abyssal cataclysm, Conrians were victims, but at the same time, a lot of Conrians switched to siding with the abyss.
Right.
But the ancient race thing, I don't know. I mean, unless it actually has to do with going back to the air quotes two different curses and the original pure blood Conrian bloodline.
Right.
So maybe the ancient race has to do with that original bloodline.
Because like
I'm kind of thinking in real time, like the gears are like turning.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I can hear it.
They're
Like so
squeaking, they're
because
grinding.
like when I'm thinking about like we're getting all these voice lines in this trailer, and so and the only story trailers that I remember them talking about, I mean the story that they're adding to this patch that would have voice lines is like you said, Baiju's story
Hmm.
and Nikida's story, and they didn't say anything about an interlude quest.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing that throws me off because it seems like, well, obviously Apep would be in Nahida's quest,
Right.
but
What about the
would the
Cataclysm point, right? Like
yeah.
that
So
portal.
I
Like
don't know.
so what I'm curious about is when they said like we're from this race that has lasted before time or something, makes me think if that is part of Baiju's story quest, because we know Baiju is looking for everlasting life, what if it is part of Baiju's story quest?
You know, I did actually have that thought the other day, but yeah, I don't know cuz I mean, cuz I've heard a lot of speculation that like oh, it could also be like one of the little cute new Pokemon things or like just straight up a Sealy. Like what if a
You're right.
Sealy talks to us?
That
So I don't know if
very
that would
dramatically. But yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know how that might be incorporated into Baiju's story quest, but ooh, I'm so intrigued. I'm so intrigued.
Yeah, I'm like I've talked about this recently, but just like Baiju, right? Like we don't really know much about him. He hasn't been active in the story. We're hoping to. I mean, a lot of people. I am personally hoping that we learn more about Chi Chi through Baiju's story quest.
Ooh, yeah,
You
because
know,
poor
so it
Chi-Chi
makes me
doesn't have a story quest.
right, and it makes me think that basically Baiju's story quest would just straight up take place in Leeway, separate from everything that was in this trailer. Like that's what I originally thought.
Mhm.
But then like we see these like two very different um plot lines unfolding, like one about APEP and one about like this like cataclysm place with all these like mutated hilichurls and stuff. And
Yeah.
makes me think like, are those part of the same quest? Because they're voiced, and it's really interesting. Unless they're pulling a fast one and they're just adding voices from the Hida story quest over this area that actually doesn't have a quest yet, which would be kind of weird to me. Like I think that makes less sense to think of that. So, huh? Like we'll see.
Mhm.
I mean, we don't really know, right? Um, but man,
Yeah.
they showed us so much stuff that's gonna lead to like, okay, so like, so what do you think those hilichurls are? Like, you were talking about like the possibility of like the quests being separate, right? Like,
Mhm.
what if it was say one curse and it did affect people differently, then like who would be turned into that kind of hilichurl? You know what I mean?
Okay, so oh man, so okay. I have a thought, and here's the thing. I don't even remember if this was said in the trailer or if this was me just like watching like an Ashikai video and then also recently revisiting the Albedo story quest.
Mm-hmm.
Um because in Albedo story quest guys, it is always so fun to like go and revisit a quest that you haven't done in 2 years or haven't looked back at and you're like, oh, "Wow, okay, this is very interesting." But he like talks about evolution and I think that's yeah, Ashikai like had talked about some evolution in some sort of context. And also with APEP and the DNA, I feel like, you know, that could also be a hint that maybe well, we know that like hilly turtles will eventually like grow into like lava turtles and then I guess eventually or also eventually into like salmaturls, so like, you know, the little annoying wizard hilly turtles.
But like we see
So
some of the
me
hilichurls just coming to die as like normal hilichurls, right?
yeah, yeah. So I guess yeah, but they've also said that like there is sort of a progression for a lot of them. Maybe not
Right.
for all of them, but I guess
Yeah.
maybe this represents like a new progression or a new form of evolution. So,
Right.
um
Or
I
maybe like
guess
more exposure to abyssal energy. Like remember, okay, so remember I remember thinking uh like everybody was thinking like the truth about hilichurls when we did that chasm quest. I forgot the name
mhm
of it, but the one where like you find out that hilichurls are cursed Conrians, right? But like
mhm
does that mean all of them are? You know what I mean? Like do you have to feel bad about killing every hilichurl like in the
I
game? Like
do.
yeah, so like, but like, you know,
I do.
but is it like that or not? Like that's the thing because we were talking about the hilichurls predate this curse supposedly, and it's like, were they turned into a completely new monster or were they turned into a monster that existed already and they evolved differently because of it? You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. I mean that's a good point.
yeah, I feel like I talked about this with Owlet actually,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, but so yeah, these things like right when you feel like we have like a sort of understanding about some of these things, they just introduce something like this, and we're like, what the like, what do we do now? Like, um, so yeah, so these new Hilichurls, I'm really curious if they're going to give us some sort of explanation. Because it's funny because they don't need to give us an explanation for like what are they called, like the desert dancing like eremites and stuff. Like they release new enemies and we're like, okay, that's cool. Oh, consecrated scorpion. Oh yeah, that's cool. Like that makes sense. There's lore involved there, but like for like hilichurls, like now everybody's like, okay, so hilichurls, what are they? How do they form? And if you're gonna introduce a new kind of hilichurl to us, we need to know how that hilichurl came to be, right? Because we are already confused about how hilichurls came to be to some
Hmm.
degree. So I feel like this just adds an extra layer of questions onto the curse and onto hilichurls in general that I hope they reveal something for, but it feels like it's not going to come this patch, to be honest.
Yeah, I just yeah, I think yeah, the thing I'm most interested in is actually having a clear, reliable explanation of how the curse or curses work. So
Hmm.
that's like on my top of like um Katie desperately needs this to be explained in game. So
Yeah, exactly. Like even through a book or anything, just give us some kind of explanation.
literally anything.
Well,
Although
Dane's Lab is on the case. What are you gonna say?
oh, sorry. I thought I had an insightful thought, but I didn't. It disappeared. Sorry, guys. I've been lorbing too hard.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get ready for our 5-minute break,
Ooh, okay.
and we will talk about different topics when we come back.
Wait,
Okay.
I still have a lot of thoughts on the Cataclysm, so we we gotta go back
Oh,
to that.
okay. So we will continue to the
Yes.
Cataclysm
Yeah.
after we come back from our 5-minute break, which is totally fine
Mhm.
because I could probably talk about the Cataclysm for the next hour. So okay, so then we'll be taking our 5-minute break then. So moderator, if you could start the BRB and everybody will get some water. Whatever you gotta do, go to the bathroom, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, welcome back to One More Cup of Coffee, Coffee and Culture's Genshin Impact Lore podcast. So once again, I'm your host for today, Jside from the Genshin Guys podcast. But you can also call me Josh, and we are here today with Roosevelt or
Hello
Roo.
again.
Yes,
I'm
welcome
back. I
back.
came back. I didn't wander off forever.
Yes, yes. Okay, Roos did not get lost, so here,
Lost in the sauce.
lost in the sauce. Speaking of getting lost in the sauce, let's talk about the Cataclysm and continue our conversation about that.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
what are your ongoing thoughts about the Cataclysm recently?
Oh, so I guess so going back to what I was saying about having Kari Bear and Windbloom in the same patch.
Mm-hmm.
The connection to me is that, we learned about Hexenzirkel, but specifically we got a little bit about not a lot, but we got Rhindotter's voice. And as you guys know, and I forget which book or weapon it is, but Rhyndotter is Gold, who
Mm-hmm.
was an alchemist for Conria and was the greatest sinner. Which
Mm-hmm.
is honestly, yeah, the greatest sinner because she created the Golden Wolf Lord, which Hoyo then put in Abyss. So you can thank her for that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, that's what you mean.
yes, yes. But yeah, just the Rift Wolves in general were all creations of hers, along with Durin. But Durin
Right,
was a homie, kind of.
along with Albedo.
Albedo's a homie. Yeah, so Daughter is so interesting because she's officially confirmed as part of the Hexen Circle, but it's weird that I don't know if Hexen Circle is supposed to be like a. I mean, I guess they're supposed to be like a neutral organization, like studying, ley lines and Irminsul and stuff. But it's so bizarre to me that someone who supposedly is one of the main drivers of the Cataclysm and all these abyssal monsters is just having tea parties.
Well, it sounds like they weren't always just the most neutral party, right? Like once they challenged Venti, supposedly, according to the little lore
Yeah,
video.
which
Like they made it sound pretty like they just kind of casually glossed over it, but there could be
oh,
lots
they
of meaning
glossed over
behind
it because
that.
I feel like Venti would be at odds with the person at least partly responsible for the cataclysm.
Right?
Like
I
that
mean,
kind of seems
also,
like a
like,
big
Venti
deal.
probably if Venti like, in that video with the Hexen Circle, they said, like, they once even challenged the Enema Archon himself, and then to which he responded with, like, "Let's not make war and let's make love," or something like that, something very Venti-like, and, um but, like, that means that Venti woke up for that, so
Mhm,
you know, whether that was during the Cataclysm or during a different time of crisis that the Hexen Circle decided to try to take advantage of, or
mhm,
if it was like a situation that they started themselves that prompted Venti to stop them, is really curious because you know we've gotten the most about that Hexen Circle we've ever gotten with Windbloom, so that
mhm.
is very sus for the Hexen Circle.
Yeah, and I guess I mean, one thing I've also thought too about Rhine Daughter, it does seem like in if you look at the descriptions of like the Rift Wolves, and also their drops, uh, there does seem to be like this indication that you know, she was just kind of, I don't know, doing mad alchemist stuff and you know, just accidentally created them. Like I think it must be in the Wolf Lord's drop. It actually says like, "Oh, she accidentally created this." You know, like drawing a sketch and sort of just like accidentally creating life. Um, so it could have been an accident. It seems. Um, but also about that point, I don't know if you guys remember Albedo's teaser. I think it was where he's like drawing like a crystal fly and he brings it to life, and then he draws a Geovishap like halfway. And
Hmm.
then at the end of the video, you have like this horrific monster that's like it's kind of like this cute little bishop, but like the second half of it is just like these lines, and it's clearly suffering. I
Right?
would be suffering.
Like the half created one that came to life anyway.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting and might tie into you know how Albedo is like, oh boy, I hope I don't lose control and destroy Mondstadt.
Oh my god, I love that.
because
I love that line.
Yeah, because yeah, because if you think of it this way, like the greatest sinner, Rhine Daughter, like you know, what if the Cataclysm was like, oops, she made like a cursed sketch. Now
Right.
there are all these abyssal monsters, and that now we have another parallel of like Albedo kind of trying to find the truth of this world, you know, and drawing his own sketches and you know maybe making life himself.
Mhm.
So Cataclysm Part Two.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, like, hmm, yeah. Like, I just, like I love how, like, Albedo is, like there's this whole thing when you're going through his story that's like, oh, he wants to understand life and the world and all this stuff. And, you know, you don't, like, necessarily know he's a homunculus right away, and then you go through his whole story and then it's like, "Oh, well, you know, I might accidentally destroy the world," like, or something like that.
Just super
And
casual.
yeah, you know, just in case. By the way, I might destroy the world. No big deal if it happens, you know? Yeah, so yeah, it makes me think like what exactly Daughter had in mind, like when she created Albedo, you know? Maybe she wanted to go find out truth of this world, but like what why? Like it sounds like she knew what it was, unless she didn't know what like something specific and she wanted him to go find out so she could know. But it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like she kind of just made him to go figure it out himself. Like I don't know. Like what do you think about Albedo?
I love him. He can do no wrong.
I agree, except destroy the world. But
Yeah.
if Albedo does it, it's all right. I think it's all right.
Yeah, I mean he's still such a mystery to me cuz he's also so sassy.
Hmm. Oh man, he's
I
so
mean
great.
low key sassy. Like
Yeah.
he's a silly goofy guy.
especially like in Wind Bloom, right? So great.
Yeah, but maybe so. Oh gosh, I know we didn't have a Dragon Spine event this past year, right? So I hope we get another one
Right.
soon. And well, I guess it would be November or December. But
Right, like Christmassy, like or like snowy timey.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, we didn't get one, huh? I wonder how they can expand on Dragonspine, or if they'll like change it up, or like reveal parts that we didn't know. Like maybe underground, I guess, right?
I mean, I guess that's where they would have to go,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or like I don't know, create a new domain and just sort of uh work with the existing area. But yeah, I mean, I'm certainly also still very interested in the civilization of Salvin Dagner, and like the princess who could also see the future, and
Mm.
who was Eamon like still a lot of questions there that I would personally like to have answered, but
Well, the last two Albedo quests were very eventful, so I hope that they choose to do a third one soon, that it is
mm-hmm,
also eventful.
mm-hmm. Yeah, so
So what else? What else you got? Cataclysm, Forbidden Knowledge, Schwanenritter, Dragon
oh,
Sovereign,
ooh, Dragon Sovereign. Wait, hold on.
right?
We can hold on, because we were talking about APAP. I
Right,
think
exactly.
yeah, I think there's already been some discussion, speculation that APAP was the one of the original seven sovereigns.
Mm-hmm.
So and of course along the lines like perhaps Jside was also one of them, and maybe someone also speculated that Urabashi was supposed to be one, but I'm not sure about that. But
I would
yeah, we're
consider
gonna
him
get
like a
more
dragon.
dragon sovereign. Well, dragons, serpents, worms. I mean,
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Those things are very different.
wait, hold on. If you look at APEP, would you call that a dragon? It
No,
it,
but I
it,
wouldn't call it a snake.
it looks like a sea slug.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sea slug, sea slug. The seven sovereign sea slugs.
Yeah, dragons, worm, same thing. Listen. We're just being a little loose in our definition of dragons.
Right. So the seven sovereigns existed before the primordial one appeared, right? Isn't that what it was?
Yeah. So
Can you tell us a little
before
what
there
you
was
know about them?
yeah. So in Before Sun and Moon, it's like summarized as like, well, there was like this big vast ocean,
Hmm.
and ruled by the seven dragon sovereigns, and then the primordial one came down, went to war with them, created his four shades, and then also created the land and the sky, and then basically made the so there's no indication that the dragon sovereigns were killed, but it's like them and their subjects either had to bend the knee to the primordial one, or
Hmm.
flee to the dark depths so yeah. And then of course in Enkanomiya we got a bit more lore about like, oh, saying that like, oh, there will be new sovereigns born, right? And that's why I think a lot of people think Kokomi is going to be one of them, because she certainly has some bishop motifs,
Hmm.
like
That
with
ties
her
to Economia.
yeah, her constellation. Even in her outfit, there are like subtle hints to like the two bishops that you can fight in Enkanomiya.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Just because we're on the line of thinking of Economia,
Hmm.
remember that quest, the temporary one? I forgot what the name of it at this moment.
Oh,
Um,
the three
yes,
gateways.
yes. The
Yes.
the one that where like you had to like clear the map because it was like getting all shrouded by like dark energy.
Hmm.
But then we find out about like the serpent people and more about the bishops and how they were originally there first.
Hmm.
Like I'm not gonna lie, I was like not that interested in Economia until that quest, like until I learned about that. And kind of the history of it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, I think Enkanomiya came at a time for me that was like, look, and I like studied Japanese culture in school. I speak Japanese, and I thought, wow, Inazuma stuff. Like, I'm gonna be so into this. And then when I got to Enkanomiya, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I hate
Oh,
exploring this place and stuff. But then, for
okay.
whatever reason, it was just a timing thing. But then I did that quest, and then I was just like infinitely more interested in Enkanomiya. Everything. Like after that quest ended, I like went back and did like I didn't 100% it yet, but I did a lot of the stuff in Enkanomiya and like just tried to like learn as much as I could about the lore. About how like the shades and the light thing. The name of I forgot the Daichi something something. That was like a gift
Daiichi
by
Rikoshi.
right. And that was gifted by Istaroth, right?
Yes, to Abrax.
Yes, and so like so interesting to learn about that and like how the bishops and about the bishops and like the bishop realm. So um like do you think that that might tie to this like creatures that have been around forever thing that's happening in the live stream? Because that was kind of one of the things I thought of.
Yeah, so going back to the voice, I mean, that's one thing that I thought about, like, with the ancient race. So that's why I was extra confused, like, "Oh, is that supposed to be APAP?" Because it's, like, talking about an ancient race, and the bishops would be the most ancient,
Right,
right?
that's
Even
right.
older than probably older than Sealy's, I assume.
Mm,
So, yeah, so I think I would love for it to, like, finally tie back to some of these things that we learned then.
mhm.
Um, and I feel like it's about time. It's time. It's
Yeah, I
time
mean,
we got Bishop Lore.
yeah, I think like it's kind of weird how important the bishops are for just being like kind of. I mean, it's kind of the same thing that happened with Hilichurls. Like we fight Hilichurls and we find out how crazy their background is, and we're like, oh god, Hilichurls. And then now we're like fighting bishops like randomly, like geo bishops and stuff, and then we find out
Mhm,
like what the bishop race is, and then we're just like, oh god, bishops. It's like everything is important in this
mhm.
game, and we just don't know it until they decide to reveal it.
Wait,
And
I have a fun fact that many people may have forgotten about. So, in the chasm, there are a few quests you can do with oh, I forget the researcher's name. On the
uh,
expedition from the
uh,
researcher from Sumeru. Shoot. Um
chat, what's the name? Yiching or Chiying or something like that. I think maybe the wrong one. Am I thinking of the wrong one?
I thought I he was from Sumeru because he gives you a letter that we have a reference letter from him that we still haven't used, by the way. So
Mhm.
I
Oh
don't know
yes,
why it's in our inventory. So hopefully maybe
Zichong? Was it Zichong or no?
oh, Khedive.
Khedive.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Um,
thank you, chat.
yeah, so in one of those little subquests of his, he's like, "Oh, you found fossils. Can you take pictures of them?" If you actually go look at the fossils, so um there are two different fossil types you can find. One is well there are five of them total, but they all have like repeating creatures, I guess. One of the creatures is clearly a bishop skeleton.
Mhm.
The other one looks to be a trilobite,
Hmm.
and not just any trilobite, like giant trilobites. Um, so
Hmm.
I always thought that was interesting because, yeah, in the chasm, yeah, I think Khedive says this, but it's like, oh, this used to be under the ocean, but it seems like there was some sort of impact event that basically uplifted all, well, killed everything, but also uplifted fossils, I guess.
Hmm.
So,
So you think
anyway,
we're gonna fight
just a
giant
fun little
trilobites?
bishop fact, yeah.
Are we gonna fight giant trilobites?
Oh, that'd be so creepy. Oh, they're like little prehistoric cockroaches of the sea.
Ugh, gross. Yeah, but yeah. So, um, yeah, I think that like this like bishop lore is bound to be revealed soon, especially like I said, the first thing I thought also was like, okay, ancient race, like what ancient races do we know? And there's a lot, but I think
Yeah.
that if if we're talking about really really ancient, the bishops are up there. So I'm still just really curious how we're gonna go through this. Like, is it all part of Nahida's quest? Is it like, is there an interlude quest that they forgot to mention somehow, or is it Baiju's
No,
quest?
they
You
they
know,
would have they would have they would have definitely mentioned an interlude or arc on like another voice quest because
right?
they've always announced those.
Exactly.
Um,
So
yeah, so the
it has to
voices
be
would have
Baiju
to
or
be
Nahida.
yeah. So I don't know.
Interesting, but they didn't show anything with Baiju. Like Baiju wasn't in any cutscenes, right? Even in the last live stream, they showed Dia's story quest like preview. Like,
Oh,
it
did
showed
they?
everybody. Yeah, it showed them.
Yeah, because I know they showed his gameplay.
Yeah, but they like straight up in Dia's thing in the live stream with Dia, they showed like her. Did you do Dia's story quest?
Ooh, I have not yet. I'm going to before the new patch. So.
Okay. But there's like a part where like she is in the pyramid, like fighting a bunch of Eremites. Like you guys are in the pyramid
Hmm.
of some sort of like structure. I don't know if it's necessarily a pyramid, but they're inside somewhere and fighting a bunch of guys. And I was like, oh, like that's part of Dia's story quest. But there was nothing like that in this one for Baiju. So makes me wonder like if that is part of Baiju's story quest, but they just
Ooh.
purposely didn't
Hmm.
show it to us. Like because they didn't preview Baiju's story quest at all. It seems like so. Huh.
Aw. Weird. Yeah. I. Hmm. I think they're pulling a fast one on us. Wait, also
Okay.
the live stream in general was like super short, so I feel
Yeah,
like
it was like
maybe
really short.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like
Um.
30 exactly 30 minutes or something.
Right. So what about So let's talk about Baiju for a second. So
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on Baiju in general? Like
Uh,
just like we didn't really know much about him like up until now. Just kind of is being released. Like he hasn't shown up
mhm.
in the main story anytime recently. So what do you think about Baiju being released now?
Oh gosh, I mean, I've always liked him as a character, and it's so surreal to actually see footage of him, like, in combat, like, to
Right?
actually see him. So it's very surreal. Maybe there's a reason why they waited this long because, I think everyone was hoping that he would be, like, the first one released upon, the release of Dendro, right? So I don't know if I don't know if there's a reason behind that or if they just wanted to, have the other characters first to really focus on Sumeru.
Right?
So, yeah, but, I mean, in terms of, story, I mean, his must be super interesting 'cause, we know he's like this, this feeble doctor, looking for a way to extend his lifespan.
Hmm. He has a snake whose name literally means long life.
Oh, yeah, Chongsheng lore. Wait, Chongsheng Bishop Sovereign? You heard it here first?
I don't know about that one, Owlet, but we'll be keeping an eye out for it. I mean, my theory was that like maybe Changsheng is a product of his vision, like Oz is a product of Fischl's.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
I that would make sense.
yeah. Um, though, like I don't know, they didn't really hint at that in any sort of way. So I mean, Oz definitely. It might just be the nature of like this like thunder crow, this thunder raven, who
Mhm,
like just like is always glowing and like appears in places, but like Changsheng's just always wrapped around his neck and doesn't really help him fight.
mhm.
So I don't know. A part of me thinks that Chang Cheng is like directly the reason he can even get up and walk around at all. Like the fact that she's wrapped around his neck, like and is directly touching him, is like has something to do with him being able to move around. Because apparently, like according to Chi Chi, his body is in worse condition than hers is, and she's dead.
Rough.
So
That's rough, man,
yeah,
but
you
also
know,
relatable. Sometimes I
relatable.
feel worse off than a zombie, yes.
I get home from work and I feel exactly the same way.
Yeah, yeah, same.
Yeah, so we're going into like the last half an hour ish of the podcast. Is
Mhm.
there anything else you want to talk about or gush about for like the next half an hour? Or like just spew theories or bounce off ideas? I'm down for whatever.
Oh gosh, so Yeah, so going back to the bishop stuff, I think
Hmm.
oh, so let me back up a little bit. So my reaction to Enkanomiya was the opposite of yours. Like like Surumi, I really enjoyed.
Hmm.
Some of the other islands I didn't enjoy quite as much. Um, but then going to Enkanomiya, I was like just so enamored. Like I just thought it was like the most beautiful place. It still is. But then uh I think what really hooked me was like, finally getting before sun and moon. So I think
Hmm.
one of the reasons why Bishop lore is so exciting is because we may also potentially get, Primordial One or Fanes or Shades lore,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah, Shades
very
is really
exciting.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, yeah, so yeah, reading Before Sun and Moon for the first time, that was really like mind blowing. But then also I remember being really excited about Enkanomiya just because um there was that one quest where they talk about Conrian diplomats, so it's like,
Hmm.
oh, so this was also an underground civilization that was like, existing at the same time as Conria. That's so interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
they made it sound like they're completely separate, right? Like
oh yeah, yeah,
Enkanomiya, right? Like was like totally separate from everybody.
yes.
Yeah, but they worship the bishops. Was that what it was?
Oh no, they were bishop prey, so they were being hunted by the bishops. So
Ah, right. That's
so
why they had to have the light to keep them away,
yeah, so
right?
they would use, I guess smaller light sources to try and drive them off, and that wasn't
Mhm.
working. And that's when Abrax invented the Dainichi Makoshi, and they could have the White Knight, and that would chase them off.
Mhm.
Um, and then also there's that one kid who was like, I don't know, found Orobashi and was like, "Hey, would you like to be our god?" And he was like, "Okay, sure." Um, yeah, Orobashi. I love him. He's also a homie because he was just chilling in the depths, and he was like, "Oh, I guess this kid wants me to, be their god. That's cool." And then, of course, he read Before Sun and Moon, learned illegal information, and got
Right.
sentenced to death.
And then
Oh,
Raiden Shogun slice him in half, right?
poor little guy. He was just a little snake friend.
Wasn't there so okay, I remember seeing I don't remember whose video was, but at this point I've seen so many videos about this. Um the that spot in the top of the map by the desert where the like that light tunnel, do you remember the name of it?
Oh,
Like
it's like Apep's Resort, isn't it?
yeah, something like that. And
Yeah.
so I'm guessing that's where we'll probably head to in the next like when they open up the map. But I what was it? I remember reading or I remember seeing about the connection that Orobashi has to that area. And what Lilipar mentions what happens to oh, wait, was it Orobashi? No, no. Apep. Apep's children. What was she? Do you remember that from the quest? Like she was talking about
Yes.
oh how far that they've come.
Yeah,
It's
because
probably from your video. To not gonna not gonna lie, like your
I it,
Drawback video, but
it, wait, it was I think it was Silicon 14? Yeah, I think it was his video. Yeah, because I remember like exploring and finding like this hole, and it's like, well, okay, obviously I need to get in this hole. You guys, if there's anything you should know about me, there are a few things, but I love lore holes, so I gotta get in the hole, right? Um, and then going to the viewpoint archive and seeing like, oh, it's due to APEP, and then doing the quest, and then Lilupar just casually says like, children of APEP being
oh,
reduced to this.
yeah, yeah,
And I remember at the time I was thinking like, was she referring to the Aramite? But, like, I actually don't remember the context, so I don't know if she was, like, referring to the Weenuts in the context of them talking about Weenut season, but,
right.
yeah. The children of Apep reduced to this. So, I definitely saw that line, and I was like, "What does this mean? What does this mean? I need to know." 'Cause, yeah, I guess in the viewpoint, we don't really know much about Apep, um, aside from the fact that Apep was a friend of Deshret at some point.
Hmm. And do you think that Orobashi? We talked about for like a second that Apep might be a sovereign, like one of the original sovereign rulers. Do you think that Apep would be one of the original or a descendant? Is that even a thing? Like, because what about Orobashi? Some people said that maybe Orobashi might be a descendant of the seven sovereigns.
No, because like for example, with Ajdaha, they make it very, very clear that Ajdaha is like super old. So I
Right.
could see him definitely being one of the originals. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess um if there are existing sovereigns, they don't have to be the original just because of like the bishop lore we get in Watatsumi and Enkanomiya that seems to
Mm-hmm.
suggest that like, oh, like they'll be like reborn or reincarnated. So I guess technically you'll have new ones eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Also, is it pronounced Waynute?
They said that in the live stream.
Newt Newt.
Newt. Newt, Newt. Yeah. uh, yeah. So what else? What else do you got? Anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, I think I hit all the high points for me personally.
Hmm.
So was there anything you wanted to grill me about?
Um. Well, I kind of what I really like hearing is, especially for people that are really versed in the lore, is what you want to see from upcoming patches. So like, what I'm really curious what you want to see from Fontaine, for example.
Ooh, wait, hold on. This brings up a good point. You know, if there's actually something I forgot to do. I,
Oh.
I think I've been doing a good job like discussing the lore sort of, more analytically just but you know what I've been forgetting to do is like present some of my crack theories.
Oh my gosh, we have so much time. Please present all your crack theories.
Okay, so I actually okay, so
Piero?
I have a crack theory about Fontaine. Um,
Fontaine? Okay.
so Aru Hiseki, and I guess a few others have made videos about um Fontaine has like an energy crisis, and there's also like a water line crisis.
Right.
And you know, with the vibro crystal event, it's like trying to find new energy sources.
Yes.
And I thought this was super interesting because uh there seems to be when I think of Conria, so hold on, let me back up. So, in the first Ruin Golem quest with Jazari, so Jazari tells us that like, oh, Ruin machines are powered by a dark power, but before apparently, like the earlier models, have like a ley line battery system, so it's like literally batteries powered by ley line energy, but apparently it's not as efficient as like this dark power, which I assume is abyssal power.
Hmm.
And he kind of hypothesizes that like, oh, they started off on these like inefficient batteries and then switched to dark power, which could be a part of them embracing forbidden knowledge, and
Mm.
abyssal corruption.
Hmm.
But what I'm getting at here is that what if this is going to be paralleled in Fontaine with their energy crisis? Because they're so desperately searching for a new energy source.
Right.
And
That
um
they.
and
Mm.
people have been like speculating that like, oh, it seems like Celestia seems to be over like this location where Fontaine might be. So and a lot of people are thinking like, oh my god, like Celestia is going to nail them, they're too advanced. But what if it's not that they're too advanced, but maybe Celestia is worried that they might um have a little tango with forbidden knowledge or abyssal power.
Yes, dancing.
So I so I think that would be a very interesting direction. Um and a lot of this was fueled by the fact that Anatoly like references Archeum. So I don't know if you had any thoughts about Arceum, but like my mind went explicitly to like one place. So which may be totally wrong, but
Arceum?
yeah, Arkhium. Yeah,
You mean like
there was
from
that.
the Vibro Crystal event, right?
Yes, yeah, sorry. In that event, he references Arceum, and apparently, it seems to be related to energy and was the cause of the explosion that what's his face, Edwin Eastinghouse disappeared in.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I was like, I was so interested. I was like, well, what could be like the root for this word? And like, sometimes I feel like it slightly disadvantaged because I feel like if I knew Chinese or Japanese, I could more easily refer like the original names.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like searching and I couldn't find anything. But the one thing that was like in my head was Arkham. So obviously, Fontaine is going to have Batman and the Joker.
Oh, same.
Okay,
Yeah, I
no,
love it.
okay, no,
Yeah,
I'm joking.
Folklore, Mr. Freeze, and
I I'm the Joker baby. Um no, I'm joking. So Arkham is actually originally from it's a fictional town in the work of H.P. Lovecraft.
mm-hmm.
Um and in game there are actually quite a few Lovecraftian references, so there does seem to be a lot of references to cosmic horror.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically with the context of uh mostly regarding the fall of Gurabad. And as we know, this was basically a scheme by Lilupar. But
Mm-hmm.
in Apocalypse Lost, Lilupar explicitly says that she turned to abyssal power to basically destroy Gurabad, and that's why, like, you know, Shirie's plague, where everyone turned and they lost their faces and language and all that.
Right. Right.
Um, so to me, and maybe this is like more headcanon and less crack theory at this point, but to me, I've always since 3.0 I've really started seeing the abyss as basically um uh a Lovecraftian eldritch abomination,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like really leaning into the cosmic horror. so
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so I
So
was thinking like
Cthulhu is the final boss.
is Arceum them trying to like actually use the power of the abyss in some sort of like contained way? But
Mm-hmm.
again, it's a crack theory because we literally have nothing else to go on. So
Right.
and I could be totally wrong about like what the word etymology is, I guess, or the origin and what they were
Mm-hmm.
going for, but I don't
Right.
know. That's just what I read, and I was like, you know what? It's a crumb, and I'm gonna stick to it.
And I'm gonna
I'm leaning
nibble.
into
I'm gonna nibble on this crumb for as long as I can.
this. Exactly.
So you think because they said that they haven't found Eastinghouse, do you think that he might come up in the main story?
Um, question, because so Anatoly he starts to say like, oh, but we haven't found all the I mean we haven't found Eastinghouse, and
Mm-hmm.
apparently I forget where I saw this. Apparently, someone pointed out that in um I guess in Chinese, it's suggested that he was going to say pieces. So
Right.
a part of me thinks that
I mean, in English,
Eastinghouse.
he said they haven't found all the like with the peep.
Yeah, well, some
Yeah.
people were thinking it was people that he was trying to say, but apparently it's supposed to be pieces, which to me indicates that Eastinghouse may have been turned into confetti.
Hmm. That like it was like a really bad incident. You mean that's how you that's how you interpreted it?
That
Well,
was
so it says the explosion was very terrible indeed. And the incident really put the institute on the map of Fontaine. To this day, they haven't found all the. I mean, they haven't found Eastinghouse.
yeah. So I don't know what pieces he's referring to, but the fact that he's about to say pieces and then says Eastinghouse, maybe he was just trying to very politely say pieces of
Well,
Eastinghouse.
well, what? So what it sounds like is this source that they used using Arceum, um maybe there were pieces like Arceum infused pieces or some dangerous parts
Mhm.
that have not been recovered, which means like we might find them in places in Fontaine and we have to deal
Oh,
with.
yeah. That
Yeah, but
ooh, that'd be cool
he's
too.
trying to cover up the fact that the institute doesn't have it under control. So
Mhm.
instead of saying, "Oh, we haven't found all of the dangerous pieces that are lying around Fontaine," I mean, we haven't found Eastinghouse. So,
Ooh, that I like that interpretation too.
yeah,
Ooh, that's spicy. I like that. I
because
like
then
that a lot.
and then if I think about it from a gameplay perspective, it would be one thing to do in Fontaine, which is like go around and do something with these like really dangerous pieces of this Arceum
Ooh.
explosion. Like, so who knows? Like maybe that's the case. But it definitely the fact that they went out of their way to write it like that makes it seem like we're gonna see something about it in the future. You know? So, and it makes it sound like we're gonna find Easinghouse in the future too, because we haven't found him alive or dead. Maybe we'll find him dead, but they're trying to cover up something. Like he changed his sentence completely mid sentence. Like he didn't say like we haven't found a different name. It was like we haven't found all the, and then he switched it to a name of a person. Oh, we haven't found Easinghouse. Like so, that's pretty sus.
Yeah. Wait, Jside, I just realized. Wait, hold on. I just realized something. Sorry, this is completely side note random.
Go for it.
Okay, sorry. So Enjo lives in the back of my mind constantly, just in
Okay.
general. But like,
Uh-huh.
we were talking about Enkanomiya, and then you talked about the event, and like I was like doing my best, like trying to think of a way to talk about Enjo, and I was like, I just want to talk about him. He's just so handsome, right? But then I realized, wait, he wasn't voiced in the Enka World Quest,
Mhm.
but he was voiced in the event.
Oh, they have that all the time, right? Like where NPCs are voiced.
Okay, yeah, but that
Yeah.
that changes. Okay, going back to that mysterious voice in the trailer, that could be from
Oh.
the event because
Oh, that's
there are two
true.
events, right? So one
Yeah.
of the events. Oh, okay. Wait, sorry. I just
Wait a
wait.
second. Wait. The events that are happening are what? Like the academia thing
Okay,
and what?
there's what are the events? Yeah, the academia one. There's
Mhm.
the way moved one. Uh oh, geez. Can I look this up real quick?
Yeah,
Oh,
for it. I'm also trying to look it up. So let's see. New boss. The Recollector's Path. So the like turning into the little creature is an event. Or there will be an event
oh,
around it, it says. I don't know if
okay.
that means that the first time you do it, you just get extra stuff if you do it within this time, or if it's like a fully voiced event.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the new area unlocked. No, it doesn't say anything about an event per se. Overflowing mastery. Brewing developments. You and Paimon met a certain strange student by the wall of Samuel to the southwest of the rainforest. She seems to be trying to test some kind of mysterious creation. And it seems like a combat event. I think it's a combat event. And then hang out with Layla. So and then Parade of Providence, which is the academia event, and then Baiju. I mean, no Baiju, but then wait, there's a Nahida. Oh yeah, Nahida story quest is here somewhere, but I don't see it on this page I'm looking at. But
Wait,
yeah,
there's also the Layla hangout. Imagine there's like super deep lore in Layla's.
no, that would be so crazy.
Oh
Like,
my
yeah,
god,
I'm actually
that'd be
from
funny.
like like how like Layla has like this like separate personality when she's asleep, right?
Whoa.
Like it's one of those creatures from ancient lore.
Hmm. Okay, so okay, I just wanted to say it's an option that the voice is from one of the events.
Hmm. No, that's a good point.
Okay,
I
okay.
didn't even think about that.
Oh, now I have to spend time trying to uncover all the secrets.
Yeah,
Anyway, so
the
sorry, I
cave
didn't mean
being
to
different.
interject like that. It's just
No, no, no. No, it's perfectly fine. What I'm thinking is like the Baiju. So Baiju doesn't come out till the second half of this patch, right?
oh, so we're gonna have to wait for his quest. Okay.
Right. So we're probably gonna have to
Mm.
wait for his story quest. And so yeah, that'll be interesting to see. But maybe that's also why they didn't show any of Baiju's story quest right away, because it's not there at the beginning. But I don't know. We'll see. It might be just a
Wait,
totally different thing.
I will say I kind of like that. I mean, I hate having to wait for Kaveh for 3 more weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I feel like there's going to be so much content on the first day. I would prefer to have the characters later so I can focus on like Nahida's story quest. I really want to play. And
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, and I want to find that hole too. I can't be distracted
So
by
many
leveling
holes.
up Baiju.
So many holes.
Yeah.
Hmm. Do you think when okay, wait, so wasn't it like theorized that the celestial nail was like in the middle of the storm in the desert of Hadramaveth
Yeah,
originally?
so it's very very strongly implied.
Right. So but we're going to a completely different area. And hmm, celestial nail. So
Well,
because okay, so the celestial nail, what are the other celestial nails that we know about?
Dragon Spine and the Chasm, and perhaps there is speculated one on Surumi because there's also a ley line branch there, and
Right, right.
also um there's dialogue or like there's one of the black screens that like gives you like information, and I think
Mm,
it's Coppeteer speaking, talking about like, oh, one time like this big thing fell on Surumi. So
mm,
but so
yep.
I guess
Because
I mean,
like the dragon spine celestial nail thing, that was on the top, right?
yeah.
But that was just a world quest. Like that was like a
Yeah, and
you can go up there and explore, and then you follow the quest um about
yeah, and
dragon
technically
spine.
same with the chasm because that the chasm delvers yeah, that's a world quest. So
Yeah, so I'm
both the
wondering
nails
if
yeah.
just opening up this new area, which is like supposedly the last area of the desert, if they're gonna like add a world quest that lets us get to the nail. Because like if you think about it, like even as big as like Jet's quest was and the R&R quests were, they didn't like talk about those in live streams, right? Like those were just things you found in the game.
It's hard for me to remember exactly what they I think they mostly pulled from like the Archon quest for the trailers, I think.
Yeah,
And then they
I
would be
don't
like, "Oh, and there's I guess in one of the like the teasers for Sumeru they mentioned the Aranara and like the golems, but I don't think they had those in the patch trailers.
right. So it just makes me think like
Oops.
we're, there's still a really good chance. I mean, we are for sure, but we're gonna be getting a lot of lore that's not gonna be along these like voice story quests for sure.
Mhm.
So like especially when it comes to like the celestial nail in the desert, I'm really curious if we're gonna find out more about that this patch or if we're gonna find out about it later.
Oh my god, I would lose my mind. Like, celestial nails are, like, also something that, I'm just really fascinated by and interested in. Um,
Hmm.
so, if it is ooh, it'd be interesting if it were in the new area, because it seems to really strongly imply that uh, it should be kind of near where the Eternal Oasis is, because that's where the branch is.
Right.
Um, and,
I
like,
mean, if you could make
that's
us backtrack to a different part of the desert, it doesn't need to be necessarily in the all take place in the new part, right?
I mean, wait, actually, in Nahida's quest, if we're getting sovereign lore, like dragon lore,
Hmm.
we could potentially get primordial one lore. So, and that could tied back to a celestial nail. Oh my god, if we get the
I
nail,
I
I'm
feel
gonna
like
cry.
you know,
I'm going to
I
cry
feel
tears of joy.
I feel like it's weird. I feel like it'd be really weird for us to know that there's a celestial nail, or like for there to be heavily implied a celestial nail in the desert, in that big swirling vortex that we can see all the time.
Mhm.
Like, it would be weird for us to not be able to discover that before we leave the desert, like before we go to Fontaine. So whether that happens this patch or the next one or the next one, I feel like we are working our way there, especially as we're finding more about the desert lore because that pep stuff seems really heavy. Like whatever whatever is happening there with Nahida, obviously anything Nahida is involved in is freaking ridiculous because it just changes so much of like what we understand about the story. So that's really what I'm excited for is like that Nahida is involved again in something um related because I mean as we know like Raiden Raiden's second story quest was also really good. Like it has its own things and some crazy stuff that happened. It gave us a new world boss, weekly boss. And so this is Nahida's second quest, giving us a new weekly boss as well. Oh, is it a weekly boss? Yeah, it looks like it's in a domain, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so I
And that
mean,
would make sense because Ajdaha was Zhongli's second story quest.
right,
Um
Raiden was hers, and then
mhm.
now Apep is Nahida's.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, where's Venti's second story quest? Man, Venti's in so many quests already. He's in
It's
every quest.
his second story quest is going to be too powerful lore-wise. It's going to break the game. There's going to be too much lore.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. You're just gonna fight Urza the Drake's reincarnation, like like the
Ooh.
abyss brings back the Drake from the abyss, and then you just fight it. It's like fighting a shadow dragon. That's my prediction.
That'd be cool. Ooh, or maybe Durin comes back to life.
Oh my!
The little
I mean,
skeleton dragon.
I would love for there to be something that involves Venti and Dragonspine because like Dragonspine,
Ooh.
technically being part of Mondstadt, we don't really see those interact. Like like does Venti stay away from Dragonspine on purpose for a reason? Like maybe that would be the reason we go in there. Like, and then Venti's quest would end up having Albedo in it anyway, which would be really cool.
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
And then we can
But
see Daughter for the first time. Hell yeah!
ooh. Oh my goodness. Oh, so many exciting things coming up. I'm like, oh, what, we're 9 days away from the patch? Oh my goodness.
I know, and like I think Owl was saying in chat like there is also a possibility they'll just drop the Baiju. Um, they're like the Baiju story quest might just come out right when the patch drops. We just unlock it with keys. So maybe we don't even have to wait 3 weeks in.
That like for example, so Nilu was released second, so in the second phase, but they waited for her quest,
Oh, did they?
didn't they?
I don't know.
Am I wrong?
Neely was like intertwined in the Archon quest too, so I kind of not sure. But Alice seems to be confident that that's what they usually do. But we'll see. They can always also just change it up. Doesn't really
Hmm.
mean anything. But yeah, I mean, I would love to have the story sooner than later, of course. But I also got to make having Baiju interesting, and you know. But man, he looks so cool. He like does magic. He has magic fingers. He's like zap zap zap. I love it.
And I'm excited because I think I'm pretty sure Dendro is my favorite element. Like I just love all the Dendro units a lot. So
Nice. Dendro supremacy.
I need more Hydro characters though. I guess I could
Yeah,
get, or I could wait until Fontaine. I bet they'll have
I
Hydro
mean,
characters.
Hydro characters in Fontaine, right? This is the place with the Hydro Archon. So, yeah, I'm really I was talking to some people like the other day about like, oh yeah, I would love to see Phoenix Wright references, like
Ace
like
Attorney.
courtroom scenes, like because of the whole judgment and court system that they have that going on there.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. I mean, I don't know if they okay, so I hope they don't make it like Tears of Themis. So Tears of Themis has like this it's I mean the main character is a lawyer,
Oh,
but like
really? Interesting.
um
Did you play a girl,
sometimes
right?
it's sorry.
Is the main character's a girl?
Yes.
Okay, and it's like a otome game, right? Like where all the guys like you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's not always the most interesting and uh, sometimes it is.
Okay.
They have a really hot dad though, so
I mean, what more could you ask for, right?
yeah, so I'm so excited.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to your next video for sure. Once this patch drops. Are you like working on anything that you can share with us?
Oh, I've just been way too busy to do anything. And I know that like I want to make a video basically week of the update. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't want to like overwhelm myself, so I'll just wait until then to make a video.
Mm-hmm.
Um but and there will probably be multiple videos because it looks like there's going to be a lot. So
Oh yeah.
uh
I mean, like it just from each aspect that we talked about in the live stream that they showed, like I could imagine you completely making a video for each one. So yeah, I mean, rant. Like that's what your channel's all about, right? Like you know, what did you say? Like
I subject you
suffering,
guys to my
subject
crack
us to
theories.
yeah,
You
yeah. There
you
you go.
must suffer.
Yes, subject us to your crack theories, and we will happily suffer.
Yeah, so nothing in the works right now, but it's only like I said 9 days. So um
Yeah,
but
I
I
mean,
guess the next thing I'll be in the lore keepers have like a when during maintenance we have a little podcast where we sort of review the content. So
oh, nice.
I think I'll be doing that. But
Okay, well, speaking of upcoming stuff, let's well, as we start wrapping up, like let everybody in the chat know where they can find you.
yes, so I am on YouTube as RoozeveltFox. So, should I type out the links or
I think our stream manager can do it for us.
yes, the stream manager. Yeah, Roosevelt Fox. On Twitch, I don't stream personally. If you go to Roosevelt Fox on Twitch, it will just redirect you to Owlet Desu. I hijack her streams and scream about lore while she plays and maybe gives a more reasonable character and story analysis. But we have a lot of fun. We get a little bit degenerate. Usually, gosh, we haven't been streaming much recently, but usually we stream 11 p.m. Eastern if we're streaming. So it's late night hangouts. So
Oh,
and
nice.
then I'm on Twitter as Roosevelt, so 3 O's, but I don't really post there much. So
Oh, okay.
but yeah,
So any
YouTube
updates?
is the main one.
YouTube and Twitter, Twitch. Twitch is Aladesu, right?
Yes, Owlet Desu, like Owlet Desu in the chat. So if
Right.
you just click her name and follow.
Like her, follow. Yeah, yeah. And for those of you who don't know, I interviewed Owlet on here like about 2 weeks ago. Really, really fun time. Really great to have interviewed both of you now. So, yeah, just good vibes. Really, really fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. So, thank you for coming and thank you for hanging out for 2 hours.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun just screaming about lore. It's my
Yeah.
favorite thing to do.
Is there anything, any last words, one thing you want to say to everybody? What is the thing to watch out for in Genshin in the lore? Like, watch out for this.
Uh 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 I don't know. There's so many things.
Anyone?
Um Earman. That's all I can think about nowadays. I just have an Earman brain rot.
Okay, guys, you heard it here. From Roosevelt herself. Earman. Watch out for any reference of Earman in the lore because we're gonna see it. Love to see it.
It's going to be
Eye
important.
patches.
He's a
Yeah,
very important character.
yeah, and
A
remember, eye
very important
patches are hereditary.
character. They
Remember, eye
are.
patches are hereditary, people. I heard it from
Kaya
the
told
king of
us this
Khaenri'ah
and
himself.
he doesn't lie. So
Oh yeah, not at all.
Kaya would never lie to me.
Yeah, definitely. To wrap up our podcast, we will take the stream and I believe we are rating somebody. So if you want to stick around, feel free to stick around. We'll be rating Arnold, and I believe the thing to spam will be coffee raid. So for our stream manager, we'll set that up in a moment. But Katie, again, thanks so much for hanging
Oh,
out.
thank
And
you.
yeah, and like
And
I'm
thank you.
looking forward to your next videos.
Thank you. And thank you, Stream Manager.
Yes, thank you, stream manager.